In Colleton County, South Carolina, the Murdaugh family was synonymous with power and prestige. Generations of Murdaughs had held the office of solicitor, making them pillars of the community. Alex Murdaugh, the family's patriarch, seemed to embody the Southern ideal of successor, respected lawyer, husband, and father, admired by many. His family appeared untouchable, their wealth and influence casting a long shadow over the town. But on the evening of June 7, 2021, everything changed. Alex called 911 in a frantic panic, reporting that his wife, Maggie, and their youngest son, Paul, had been found dead, shot in cold blood near their hunting lodge.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
This is Alex Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police to ambulance immediately. My wife and child got badly.
Okay, you said 4147 Moselle Road in Allison?
The tragedy rocked the small town, but as investigators dug deeper into the lives of the Murdaughs, a darker, more complicated truth began to emerge. The Murdaughs, for all their wealth and respectability, were not the perfect family they appeared to be. Secrets long buried in the shadows of their legacy started to surface, unraveling the carefully constructed image of the Murdaugh name. What had seemed like an unimaginable crime would soon reveal a web of deceit, power, and tragedy, leaving the community and the world wondering, who were the Murdaughs, really? The quiet of a June evening in rural Colleton County, South Carolina, was shattered on June 7, 2021, when Alex Murdaugh placed a frantic call to 911. His voice trembled as he reported the discovery of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, brutally murdered at their family's hunting estate, known as Moselle. "My wife and son have been shot badly," Alex cried, his voice breaking. When authorities arrived, the scene they encountered was grim. Paul's body was found near the kennels, riddled with shotgun pellets. Maggie lay just yards away, felled by multiple rifle rounds. The positioning of their bodies and the nature of their wounds spoke to a violent, chaotic attack. Investigators later determined that the two had been killed just minutes apart, suggesting the work of a single assailant intent on leaving no witnesses. In the immediate aftermath, Alex appeared devastated, pacing near the scene and providing a disjointed account of his movements that evening. He claimed to have been visiting his mother at the time of the murders and insisted he had found their bodies upon returning home. His grief seemed genuine, his tears undeniable, and the sheer brutality of the crime cast suspicion on everything and everyone but him. As the news broke, the murders of Maggie and Paul sent shockwaves through the small-town community of Hampton. The Murdaughs were a family of prominence, known for their generations-long grip on the local legal system. To many, the idea that such a tragedy could strike a family of such influence was unthinkable. The media descended on the small county, and rumors began to swirl. But as investigators combed through the crime scene and began piecing together the events of that night, questions started to arise. The evidence didn't immediately suggest an outsider. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a robbery gone wrong. It seemed personal. The family's legal troubles and public scandals loomed large over the investigation. Paul's recent involvement in a fatal boating accident had garnered significant media attention, and his impending trial for the incident had been a source of tension within the family. Could the murders have been an act of retaliation? Or was there another, darker motive hidden within the Murdaugh family's troubled history? In the days following the murders, the investigation would reveal more than anyone had anticipated secrets that would tear apart the Murdaugh legacy and shock the world. For generations, the Murdaugh family wielded unparalleled power in the low country of South Carolina. Their influence spanned the judicial system, politics, and local society, creating an aura of untouchability. From the early 20th century, 3 generations of Murdaugh men had served as solicitors, equivalent to district attorneys, in the region. Their word carried weight, their decisions shaped lives, and their favor was sought by many. But beneath the veneer of respectability lay a dynasty built on control and manipulation. Alex Murdaugh, the latest scion of the family, was not a solicitor himself, but his role in the family law firm afforded him wealth and prestige. The firm, Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elsroth, and Dietrich PMPED, was a cornerstone of the community, handling personal injury cases and earning millions in settlements. Yet, as investigators would discover, this success was laced with deceit. In the wake of the murders, Alex's finances came under intense scrutiny. What initially appeared to be a grieving father's nightmare soon unraveled into a complex web of theft and fraud. Investigators uncovered evidence that Alex had been siphoning money from his law firm for years, embezzling millions from clients and colleagues alike. Cases involving settlements for grieving families revealed missing funds, all traced back to Alex's schemes. The unraveling of Alex's financial empire revealed his desperation. It became clear that he had been living a life far beyond his means, supported by a steady stream of stolen money. This financial turmoil was compounded by a series of legal troubles involving his family. Paul's role in the 2019 boating accident that killed Mallory Beach had brought intense scrutiny to the family, resulting in a civil lawsuit that threatened to expose their secrets. As investigators dug deeper, even more skeletons emerged. The death of Gloria Satterfield, the family's longtime housekeeper, became a focal point. In 2018, she had reportedly fallen on the stairs at Moselle, an incident Alex claimed was accidental. However, Alex's subsequent handling of an insurance settlement for Gloria's sons raised red flags. The money, intended to support her grieving family, had never reached them. It had been pocketed by Alex. What had once been a gilded legacy now stood exposed as a house of cards built on lies, greed, and corruption. The cracks that had long been hidden beneath the surface were now widening, and Alex Murdaugh's carefully constructed world was beginning to collapse. As the investigation into the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh progressed, a clearer picture of Alex Murdaugh's double life began to emerge. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division left no stone unturned, scrutinizing Alex's financial records, personal relationships, and the timeline of events leading up to the murders. What they uncovered shocked even seasoned investigators. Forensic evidence from the crime scene became a critical focus. Cell phone records provided a detailed account of Alex's movements and communications on the night of the murders. While Alex claimed to have been visiting his mother during the killings, data from his phone placed him at the Moselle property at the time of the murders. Even more damning was a video found on Paul's phone, recorded minutes before his death, which captured Alex's voice in the background, a detail he had repeatedly denied. Ballistic analysis revealed another layer of evidence. The weapons used in the murders were consistent with firearms owned by the Murdaugh family. While the murder weapons were never recovered, investigators matched the ammunition to other firearms found on the property. The implication was clear. Whoever killed Maggie and Paul likely had intimate knowledge of the family's arsenal. Simultaneously, SLED agents expanded their investigation to include Alex's financial dealings. What started as a murder inquiry soon unraveled into a sprawling financial scandal. For years, Alex had been misappropriating funds from his law firm, Preempt. He had diverted settlement payouts intended for clients, forging documents and falsifying accounts to cover his tracks. The scale of his theft, amounting to millions of dollars, was staggering. The financial crimes had far-reaching consequences. One of the most glaring revelations was Alex's handling of the wrongful death settlement following the 2018 death of Gloria Satterfield, the family's housekeeper. Gloria's sons had never received the settlement money promised to them. Instead, Alex had siphoned it into his own accounts. This betrayal added fuel to the growing public outrage against him. As more information came to light, investigators reopened past cases linked to the Murdaugh family, including the 2015 death of Stephen Smith and the 2019 boating accident involving Paul. Each case hinted at a pattern of influence and intimidation used to shield the family from accountability. The deeper the investigation delved, the more apparent it became that the Murdaugh's influence was not the unassailable force it had once been. With each revelation, Alex's carefully constructed world crumbled further, and the once revered family name became synonymous with scandal and betrayal. As the investigation into Alex Murdaugh's life unfolded, the staggering depth of his financial misdeeds came into focus. What had once appeared to be the Murdaugh family's unshakable wealth and influence was, in reality, a facade built on theft, deceit, and mounting debt. For years, Alex had siphoned funds from his law firm, PMPD, and embezzled settlements meant for his clients. Through forged documents and shell accounts, he had managed to divert millions into his own pockets. His victims included some of the most vulnerable families grieving lost loved ones or injured individuals relying on settlements to rebuild their lives. These betrayals cut deeply, especially in the tight-knit communities of the Low Country. The revelation of Alex's financial schemes sent shockwaves through PMPD, a firm that had prided itself on its reputation for integrity and justice. Partners and colleagues were blindsided, learning that the man they had trusted had stolen not only from clients, but from the firm itself. The fallout was swift. Alex was forced to resign, and lawsuits against him began piling up. Behind the veneer of wealth and respectability, Alex had been living far beyond his means. Lavish homes, hunting estates, and private school tuition had drained his finances, even as he maintained the image of a prosperous attorney. By the time investigators began scrutinizing his accounts, Alex was in financial freefall, desperate to stay afloat. One of the most egregious cases involved the wrongful death settlement following the death of Gloria Satterfield, the Murdaugh family's longtime housekeeper. Alex had convinced her grieving sons to trust him with the settlement, only to pocket the funds himself. When this betrayal came to light, it sparked outrage, becoming a symbol of Alex's calculated greed. The financial collapse didn't just expose Alex's misdeeds. It revealed the vulnerabilities of a legal system that had allowed him to operate unchecked for so long. For decades, the Murdaugh name had shielded Alex from scrutiny. But as investigators unraveled the full extent of his crimes, the family's carefully curated legacy was destroyed. By the time the dust settled, Alex Murdaugh stood accused of embezzling millions, defrauding clients, and betraying the trust of those closest to him. The financial collapse didn't just destroy Alex's life, it dismantled the Murdaugh dynasty, leaving a trail of ruined lives and shattered trust in its wake. By the time Alex Murdaugh stood trial in early 2023, the courtroom in Walterboro, South Carolina, had become the epicenter of a national spectacle. Reporters filled the gallery, community members gathered outside, and the weight of a century-old legacy loomed heavy over the proceedings. Alex, once a powerful attorney, now faced charges of double homicide, fraud, and a host of financial crimes that painted a grim picture of a man driven to desperation. The prosecution presented a case built on damning evidence and careful reconstruction. At the heart of their argument was the timeline on the night of June 7, 2021. Cell phone records, video evidence, and ballistic analysis painted a picture that directly contradicted Alex's claims. Paul's phone had captured a video moments before his death, placing Alex at the kennels, a critical piece of evidence that dismantled his alibi. Ballistics matched the ammunition used in the murders to the Murdaugh's personal stash, while Alex's erratic behavior in the hours and days following the killings raised suspicions of guilt. The defense, meanwhile, sought to portray Alex as a grieving husband and father, incapable of such a heinous act. They pointed to the lack of direct eyewitnesses and suggested alternative theories, including the possibility of retaliation related to Paul's boating accident. Yet, the inconsistencies in Alex's statements and the overwhelming evidence worked against their efforts. Perhaps the most pivotal moment came when Alex took the stand. His testimony was emotional, marked by tears and denials, but under cross-examination, cracks began to show. Prosecutors pressed him on the financial crimes, establishing a motive rooted in desperation to cover up years of theft and deceit. The jury saw a man who had lived a double life for years, willing to manipulate everyone around him to maintain his image. The trial concluded with powerful closing arguments. The prosecution framed Alex as a man consumed by greed and entitlement, willing to destroy his family to save himself. The defense clung to the hope that a lack of direct physical evidence might sway the jury. The jury deliberated for just a few hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. Alex was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The trial was not just a reckoning for Alex Murdaugh, but a public acknowledgement of the darkness that had long festered behind the family's storied name. The truth had finally come out, but it came at an unimaginable cost. The conviction of Alex Murdaugh marked the final, devastating chapter in the story of a family that had once embodied power and influence in the low country of South Carolina. For over a century, the Murdaugh name had been synonymous with justice and authority, a dynasty that shaped the legal and social fabric of Hampton County. But beneath the surface of wealth and respectability lay a history of unchecked privilege, corruption, and ultimately tragedy. The murders of Maggie and Paul, and the revelations that followed, shattered the community's trust in a family that had long been considered untouchable. The trial exposed not just Alex's crimes, but a culture of entitlement that had allowed the Murdaughs to operate above the law for generations. As Alex faced life in prison, the once revered Murdaugh name was forever tarnished, a symbol of how power can be twisted into something destructive. For the victims Maggie, Paul, and all those who had suffered at the hands of the Murdaugh family, justice had finally been served. Yet, the story of the Murdaughs serves as a stark reminder of the perils of unchecked power and the lengths some will go to maintain an illusion, even as their world crumbles around them.